Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, the place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 166. Empowerment means being assertive. Welcome back to our month all about personal empowerment, which means greater confidence, better relationships, I think a greater sense of peace. Last week, we focused in on healthy boundaries, which we will certainly need if we're going to become more assertive. Because first, we have to know what is ours versus what is theirs, and then speak up about what is our truth. Now, of course, this isn't the first time we're focusing on this topic, and it won't be the last. It's one of my favorites, and obviously yours too, according to what you've told me. The problem with assertiveness, just like boundaries, is that it can be so mislabeled, I think, and so misunderstood. So I think the more we define it and explore it, the better off we are. One thing that has always helped me over the years focus in on this is to remember that there are three ways to communicate according to Jim Rohn. There's passive-aggressive, there's aggressive, or there's assertive. So let's first talk about what assertiveness is not. Especially for women, this can get really misconstrued. It's not anxious. It's not reactionary, fear-based. Therefore, it's not loud or bossy, embellished, shaming, or angry. It's not focused on the other person. I think it's the opposite of flailing about emotionally and stomping around immaturely. I think it's more about being sure, being confident, and being steady with a firm voice, even if you're scared as hell on the inside. That's okay. It's not about passive-aggressive behavior. So what do I mean by that? No sighing, no eye-rolling, no guilting, no manipulation, no innuendo, no gaslighting, no focus on them at all, no lashing out. It's not reactive. That's the big thing here. It is not in reaction to another person. It may be a response, but it's a thoughtful response, as best as we can do. Because it's not about changing or controlling others, or getting them to see, getting them to understand, or getting them to change. You have to go into the situation knowing that people may or may not like what you have to say, and they may respond well in a healthy way or not. So assertiveness is not being aggressive. It's not forcing your truth on other people, but it's also not being passive-aggressive. It's also not leaking your stuff out sideways and saying that you're fine, or saying one thing and doing another, or playing victim and not taking responsibility. What assertiveness is confident body language and decent eye contact. You're turning towards someone and you're open. You don't have your arms crossed and closed off. You're not defended. Hopefully you're standing tall and giving a good handshake and being warm and approachable. It can even be warm and loving, depending on who it is. You don't have to be guarded around most people. You proactively state your boundaries, not in reaction to. You can say things like, hey, I thought more about it. I'm just not going to be able to help you on Saturday. I'm so sorry. Do you hear the empathy in my voice? It's like, I'm so sorry I can't be there to help you. I know you need help. Unfortunately, I just can't be that one to do it because I have something else going on. Assertiveness is all about how you express your boundaries. It's about telling them about you. Remember, healthy boundary setting is, I'm going to let you know about me. Ball goes to you. You can be wherever you need to be, and that's not my business. It means being open. It means being emotionally honest, like talking about what it really is, not beating around the bush, not making people guess or put two and two together. So you're vulnerable in a sense when you're sharing your thoughts and your feelings, when you're expressing what you need, and when you're telling others what your limits are. Like saying, hey, I'd love to go out to dinner. I just can't hang out too late because I have to get up really early tomorrow. Ball goes to the other person. They get to decide, does that work for them? May or may not. Assertiveness means already deciding where you are pretty much. Like, what conclusion have you come to? Before telling anyone anything, ideally, now that's not always going to be possible. But for the most part, we have to get clear with ourselves before we open our mouth. In other words, you don't act out emotionally and you don't put your stuff on other people. Sometimes that may mean, hey, can I get back to you? Or hey, I need a minute to think about that. Being assertive means listening also to the thoughts, feelings, needs, and boundaries of other people and trying to respond in the healthiest way that you can. Conveying acceptance, or at least trying to accept, regardless of whether you like it or agree with it, doesn't matter. But showing respect does. We want to give other people what we're trying to get from them. Acknowledgement, perhaps validation, at least acceptance and respect. They don't have to agree with us. They don't have to co-sign it. They don't have to join in. But healthy boundaries are, it's not X, Y, and Z about you. It's what I have to accept about X, Y, and Z about you. And own my feelings and not put them out on you. Not try to make you feel like shit because I'm upset with you. Because of what you're doing and not doing that isn't what I want. I think assertiveness is all about taking personal responsibility for everything you think, everything you feel, everything you do, everything you choose. And not trying to blame other people. You're no longer doing the because of you, I. Good detachment from what is not yours as well. Their choices are not your stuff. Your feelings about that is your stuff. Your thoughts and your beliefs about that, yeah, that's your stuff. What are you going to do about it? How do you want to take care of yourself in that relationship in a non-punishing, non-reactive way? And that takes really good awareness, I think. Really good self-awareness in the moment, afterwards, maybe even processing with a safe person before you take any action. Because it takes a while to figure out who owns what's going on for you, what is it about them that's making you crazy, what is your responsibility, what is actually within your control. And sometimes that's not much. Being assertive means telling others about you, remember? And then letting them do what they need to do with that information. It is not putting it on them with phrases like, you need, you can't, you better not, etc., etc. Instead, it's boundary work. It's like, hey, if you choose to continue yelling at me, which pretty much says, I can't stop you from yelling, that's your choice, I'm going to leave the conversation. So in that moment, I'm taking care of me. I am leaving. I'm going to take care of me and my boundaries. I don't let people speak to me that way. But I'm also going to allow you to decide, do you want to continue to do that with me? Maybe you're just losing it and you're not even aware of how you're behaving because you're so upset. I'm giving you a moment to choose. Is that what you want? Guys, implicit and embedded in this is choice, but it's also ownership and healthy separateness. Because when I say something like that to you, like, hey, if you choose that, I'm choosing this, we are automatically two individuals, each responsible for our own truth, each responsible for how we're going to take care of ourselves. And everyone's owning what they need to own. And nothing changes until that happens. We know that. As much as we can easily forget this, we know it. We know we can't change each other. You know you can't make your partner care more about X, Y, and Z, or your kids to want better grades. They have to want them for themselves. Another way of being assertive is speaking up. like speaking up in a class, asking a question, or in a meeting, asking something or for something. And what's important here is feeling as if what you're asking for is healthy and reasonable, and that you can do this in a grounded, calm way without defensiveness. That is key. Or any type of yuck in your voice. So in other words, we have to get things clear with ourselves. First, we have to believe in our own voice. We have to believe our truth. And as soon as we get clear with that, it's really, we're just sharing that truth with other people. We're just revealing what we have made peace with on the inside. And when people are learning to be assertive, there's so much work that goes into this, which is why I'm designing a course around this. Because over the years, I learned the hard way that you can't just give someone assertiveness tools and expect them to use them on the daily. They know what the tools are. Logically, of course they know what the hell to do. Of course they know they're supposed to say no. Of course they know they're supposed to ask for what they need. But if they aren't believing who they're bringing to the table, if they don't think that's valid deep down, if there is any shame, trauma in their past, people have poisoned them to not trust their own thinking and what they're feeling, what they need, it's really going to be hard for them to stay in their truth because typically they have to assert themselves with some not so healthy people who don't have good boundaries, who aren't going to say, of course you need a day off, I understand. So there's a lot of work really deep down that goes into becoming more assertive. I think there's two levels, as I've shared before in the show. There's the surface level, I call it, like, okay, changing new behaviors. Okay, wait a minute. Am I using good eye contact with that person? Am I showing that I'm listening? Am I being calm and grounded and firm? Do I sound like I believe myself? Am I being respectful? Am I keeping it about me? All that stuff on the surface, so to speak, because it's what shows to the outside. Okay? Those are the behaviors in the moment. Those are the bad habits we need to change from maybe passive-aggressive behavior or aggressive defended behavior to assertive. Underneath, we also have to do the more clinical work. And that is working on healing on the inside, healing whatever emotional trauma you had around trusting what you think, feel, and need, believing that that's valuable and good, trusting that you can make good decisions, that you're smart and you're capable, trusting your creativity, and trusting your gut. The big thing is knowing that you have rights. And these rights are the same rights that everyone else has. But toxic upbringing and relationships can really damage that. So there can be a lot of great work that can be done around this. This is changeable. You can become more assertive. I help people do it every day. But I want you to not be mad at yourself or frustrated if you take a skills course and you still can't do it. That just means there's deeper work to be done. So assertiveness is all of these things and a million others. In essence, though, it's about loving, knowing, and trusting yourself and what you need and what you don't want in your life and why that makes sense. And this may mean therapy, it may mean coaching, it may mean a support group or all the above. It helps to journal and affirm. It helps to talk to safe people where they can mirror back for you. Of course you have a right to say no, damn it. Or good for you. You stood up for yourself yesterday in a healthy way. Or of course you need that. We all need a vacation. We all need a nap. We all need a rest. If you grew up with manipulative people that gave you the vibe that maybe you're selfish for needing that stuff, maybe you're so used to taking care of everyone else, you just need to be reminded. Your inner 4-year-old already knows exactly what they need, and they think it's totally fine. It's about remembering. Assertiveness is about finding, dusting off your voice, and then practicing it bit by bit, day by day with safe people first. Safe people, I mean people who, like I mentioned a moment ago, can say, hey, good for you. Or, yeah, sure, I'm disappointed, but I understand you're not feeling well. You can't go tonight. We'll do it another time. Safe people who also with you share their truth. Sometimes they say no, and they don't do it in a shitty way. They don't make it about you, and they don't try to make you feel bad. They just say, hey, I'd love to help you on Friday night, but I just can't. Using your voice, honoring that what you're asking for is valid, but the other person doesn't have to feel bad either. That's what's key. You don't have to go there. In unhealthy passive-aggressive families, of course you had to go there. The focus was all on everyone else and what they're doing and what they're effing up and what you can't believe they can't understand and how they don't care about you. Because no one in the family had any boundaries or could be vulnerable because it wasn't safe to be vulnerable. So you're learning what was supposed to have been taught a long time ago, but no one taught them. Assertiveness means making your insides match your outsides. That's what I meant in the beginning about emotional honesty. This is your truth, and you know who you are. You are not couching said truth to fit the person in front of you. You're not leaving out details that they might reject. You're just putting your truth out there, and they can either handle it or not. You're not contorting yourself. You're not contorting your voice. You're not contorting your boundaries or your needs or your feelings or your thoughts because you're afraid they can't handle it. That's manipulation. Don't do it. Now again, if they are that toxic, you don't want to start with these people. You want to always start with the safe people because you want to build muscle memory. That assertiveness is healthy, it's a good thing to do. Also, over time, we get better at it. We're not so anxious and we're not so defended. And we don't have to do it reactively. You know how when people start setting boundaries, or maybe this has happened to you, you swing at the jackass because you have to. And then you realize, I don't need to act like that to say no. I can just say in a very kind way, hey, I'm sorry I can't go tonight. Instead of saying, no, I can't go tonight. What's wrong with you? Don't you know how busy I am? So you kind of like wean off the passive-aggressive, fear-based approaches and responses, and you're just sharing your truth. And that takes time, and that takes a lot of refinement, which means a lot of screwing up along the way. And that is part of the process. Just be prepared. It is the best way, I believe, to learn. Assertiveness is all about personal responsibility. It's your job to take care of you. It's their job to take care of them. It is your job to also think about how you want people to feel in your presence, and not in a codependent, manipulative way of people pleasing. I'm talking about how approachable are you? When we get clear with ourselves, when we heal, when we get grounded in our truth, and we've just made peace with it, we're more approachable. There's not a lot of defensiveness to work through. There's not as much anxiety. There's not as much internal conflict, meaning you're fighting yourself. The more grounded and congruent we become, the more peaceful we are to be around, and the more we want others to be, have, and do the same. So not only are we modeling healthier behavior, we're also allowing other people to also say, hey, Mary, I can't join you on Tuesday. And I say, I understand. So they get to practice. You give others license to also say no, ask for what they need, bring up a tough subject, take care of themselves with you. And here's the thing. If both of you are doing that, I can guarantee you that relationship is going to get healthier. Assertiveness is about respect, therefore, mutual respect for each other's choices, beliefs, values, and struggles. It's about honoring what you need and realizing what other people need too. Assertiveness means acceptance of your truth and the reality that they may not be able to honor your truth, and that's okay. All right, here we go. Especially if typically you've been quiet in your relationships, compliant, okay? Avoidant, you suck it up, you stuff it down. You may blow up in an argument every quarter just to get it out because you have to. But then you don't go anywhere. You keep doing the same old thing. You keep cooking dinner. You keep doing the laundry. You keep bringing in the money. But when you start changing, when your no absolutely starts being effing no, and you stop doing their laundry, and you limit the spending, and you go to the gym instead of caretaking them, and you take care of yourself, you're going to become threatening to them. Those folks who, because of their own self-esteem issues, are starting to say, oh crap, you're becoming more empowered. And guess what they know deep down, subconsciously, even if they're not conscious of it? You might leave them. You might pull away. Because they know deep down, you're going to need better. The people who are not sociopaths know this. Because they want the same for themselves. They just are too terrified to change and go after it. And here you're changing. And when you start changing and you become more congruent, your walk and talk really start to match and you follow through. You say what you mean, you try to mean what you say, and you make it real with your behavior. People are going to start to notice and they're going to start to take you seriously because that's not changing for you. You're getting better and better at it, and they're going to have to accept that. And your new confidence can be a little scary for them. For others, it can be a wonderful thing and they love you for it. They love being around you. They've been wanting this for you. You're probably going to have two camps of people there. And it's so important to have the congruence and follow through because the big deal with assertiveness, again, is who you bring to the table. You have to like them. You have to be okay with you. And there's no way you can be okay with you if you don't even believe that you're not going to procrastinate this week, if you don't even believe that you're going to follow through and do that hard thing and set that boundary and say no. If you don't believe and witness and experience, here's the kicker, the first terrifying time or two where you take care of yourself and don't focus on everyone else and risk speaking up in a meeting, and it goes really well. Every time you experience that, two things happen. One, you're like, oh, good, I can do this. Number two is you go. You tell them our truth. You believe more in yourself. You create self-trust, which creates, I think, self-confidence. We have to get our shit together between us and ourselves. Then we present that truth to the world bit by bit as we become braver and braver and braver. So empowerment has to include being assertive. How else do you put your truth out there? All right, so today we talked about how in order to be empowered, we must be assertive, which means standing in our truth while being calm and as grounded and respectful of others as we can be at the same time. We discussed what assertiveness looks like and definitely what it is not, how it's all about finding and using your voice in healthy ways to make your insides match your outsides so you can feel more confident and trust yourself more, and people can feel better in your presence. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Hope you got some good stuff. Practice being in your truth this week and see what happens. Be sure to check the show notes at ownitpowercast.com and grab the newsletter, grab the podcast, and pass it around. All right, so pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.